With Janice Cobb of Seeing My Pet ID Tag, engraved with your pet's info, they allow emergency personnel to start care for your pets if you're sick or injured. Head over to SaveMyPetIDTag.com and explore products. They ensure peace of mind for you and for your four-legged family.
In the state of Ohio, there is a dedicated team that hits the road to help dogs, cats, animals in need. I love their name, Rascal Unit. And here to share the mission is Dr. Michelle Gonzalez, who is often simply called Dr. G. So, welcome to the show, Dr. G.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Rascal Unit. All right. You had me at Rascal, you rascal. Briefly tell people, because sometimes there's a distance between a standing veterinary clinic and a dog or cat that is in need. And Ohio is a pretty big state. So what is Rascal Unit?
So the Rascal Unit started 18 years ago, and we are a group of mobile veterinary clinics. So our main goal is to provide affordable and accessible veterinary care. And what do I mean for that? Is that there are places where they don't have the funds because of limited resources, that kind of stuff. So we're able to provide low-cost veterinary care, primarily spay, neuter, and vaccines, but then also accessible, because there are people that perhaps can't afford veterinary care, but they don't have the access to care. So by having these mobile clinics, we can go directly to these target locations and then help the animals where they live.
Well, other scenarios, you could have somebody like right now, I am in a house with 8 pets. Okay. I have 4 cats, 2 dogs, and I'm taking care of my sister's 2 dogs temporarily. I don't know how I would juggle all of them in a car, like a clown car, to get to a vet.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, though, we do high volume, right? So we don't go to somebody's house.
Okay.
We go to individual locations. So usually hosting groups. So we'll have a humane organization, a shelter. There are some times that it's a dedicated individual, like a TNR person, for instance.
And for those folks, that means
trap, neuter, release. So the most humane way to deal with colonies of cats. So we'll go to a location, and it may not be your house, but maybe you have to drive 50 miles to a clinic, which would be a pain with a bunch of dogs and cats. But maybe now we're in town and you only have to drive 2 miles. So
that's a really good concept. Not every state has mobile vet clinics like yours, right? Is it a trend that you've been, what motivated you? And you're kind of the genius behind it.
Well, what motivated me was that I used to work at a general practice, and I was doing a lot of work with rescues, and these rescues were bringing me tons of dogs and cats for sterilization, right? And I kept thinking, where are all these animals coming from? Because it's like never ending. And I reached out to one of the rescues and I said, where are you getting all these cats and dogs? And they said, we're getting them from Southern Ohio because they have no resources. And I was incredibly ignorant. I thought that everywhere had vets, right? I didn't understand that there were places that didn't have veterinarians.
Wow.
So I figured, what's the best way for me to help my local shelter and those people? Well, the best way is to go to the source of the problem, because what I was doing was just putting a Band-Aid on it, right? Like I was just taking care of the end result, but not really helping the base of the problem. So that's what started the Rascal Unit, was basically looking for a way to sterilize the animals and take care of the animals at the target location so that they don't even have to travel to Columbus. The problem can stay resolved in their area.
And you mentioned, obviously, spay and neuter, which is controlling the population, so you nip and snip. But what are some key vaccinations you're doing for dogs and for cats to keep a spread of disease and keep these guys healthy and maybe up for adoption?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the dogs, we offer all the vaccines that are normally recommended. As far as the distemper, parvo, lepto vaccines, we do the Bordetella, which people more commonly know as kennel cough. And then we also offer the flu vaccine, which is important for dogs that are going into kennels or flying, traveling a lot. And then the Lyme vaccine. Here in Ohio, we're seeing more and more cases of Lyme disease.
Really?
So we offer
from
that.
Ticks?
Yes, from ticks. And then, of course, rabies, which we require for every dog and cat that comes in for surgery.
What
and
about
then
the
for the cats, we do the FERCP, which is people usually more known as the kitty parvo or the kitty distemper, which is more like parvo, and respiratory diseases, and then the feline leukemia vaccine.
Wow. And in addition to this, so you work with different groups. Do you have any stats on how many spays and neuters you've done as a veterinarian? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, on average, we do about 13,000 a year. And the first year, we only did about 3,500. The second year, that number jumped up to about 7,000. And then after that, for several years, we were around 10,000. And then in the last, I would say about 5 to 6 years or so, we've been around 13,000. So I kind of stopped counting around 150,000 pets sterilized.
I'm not a math wizard, but I'm just thinking if those pets, 13,000 or so a year, hadn't been spayed or neutered, they're having puppies, they're having kittens. I think the state of Ohio would be overrun.
Yeah, and we're still somewhat overrun, right? Like the shelters are having problems. There's so many dogs and cats going into shelters and not coming out. There are people that have no ability to get their animals sterilized. So we're hoping to help to make a dent in the pet overpopulation to help both the individuals as well as the community in general.
Now, your background, you were born and raised in Puerto Rico. It is the one place I have been wanting to get to, but then damn hurricanes get in the way twice. But that is a great place. And talk about your was your first word puppy or kitten? I mean, how did you get
probably
in Puerto Rico? How did you say, I think I want to become a veterinarian and maybe go to Ohio State and get my DVM?
So growing up, nobody in my family were veterinarians. They were not necessarily animal lovers. There was always a dog in the house, but it was like a different mindset, right? Like dogs lived outside, that kind of stuff. But I was always very drawn to animals. So even though nobody taught me that, I just knew. And I was probably about 5 to 7 years old, something like that. My sister's an actress. She's on TV. And they were interviewing me, hoping that I was going to say that I was going to grow up and be an actress like her. And when they asked me what I wanted to be,
she would like to know her name because actresses like to hear their name. Go ahead. What's her name?
My sister's name is Giselle Blondet. She is in Florida currently, and she does TV and production. So she is amazing. And she was very well known. So everybody was like, oh, are you going to be like your sister when you grow up? And I said, I'm going to be a vet when I grow up. And everybody was shocked because they had no idea where I came up with that. And I remember to this day, the name on the article said she wants to be a veterinarian. Like it was no longer following on my sister's footsteps. So yeah, and I grew up in Puerto Rico. I graduated from high school in Puerto Rico and did 1 year of college there before transferring to Michigan State for undergrad and then vet school at Ohio State.
What was the best part of growing up in Puerto Rico?
Oh, so many things. I mean, having the beach, having the amazing weather, the people in Puerto Rico as a culture, everybody is so friendly to each other. People joke like we're all cousins. It's because we just relate to each other and we love each other. The food. That's the one thing that I miss the most here in Ohio is the food. So yeah, I mean, so many things and just the scenery, the rainforest. I mean, there are so many beautiful things in Puerto Rico.
Well, I've been doing Duolingo, learning Spanish, and I do sound Italian, but it's on my bucket list to get to Puerto Rico, and maybe one day it'll be our 51st state.
Yes, I definitely recommend going there. You'll love it.
All right. Hey, everybody, we're talking with Dr. Michelle Gonzalez. She goes by Dr. G, and she runs the Rascal Unit. We've been talking about that, but she also gets behind the microphone because she is very much dedicated to bringing out the best in pets and animals in need. So you also have something called the Animal Welfare Junction. What is that?
Yeah, so last year around January, I launched the Animal Welfare Junction podcast because I love to educate. I love to let people know about things, anything from general wellness to I also have a degree in veterinary forensics, so I work in cases of animal cruelty and neglect. So I wanted to have a place to share these stories and share this education. And some people that I know kept saying, you need to get a podcast. So finally, I just took the leap and did it. And I'm really excited that I did because I have a platform to, again, share things about welfare. Like we'll talk about rabbit care. We'll talk about vaccines to legal things affecting our animals like puppy mill laws and such. and then some of the forensic cases that I have worked on. So there's a little bit for everyone.
And we're going to dive into those forensic examples, but we got to take a quick break. So everybody, you know the drill. We got to sit, stay. We're going to be right back.
Pet Greens just donated a large amount of catnip and cat grass to Beagle Freedom Project, who recently just converted an animal testing lab into an animal sanctuary called Freedom Fields. Giving cats in a rescue access to cat grass and catnip can really help with their mood or acclimating if they came from outside to inside. And reducing a cat's anxiety really helps their chances of getting adopted. If you'd like to learn more about Pet Greens, or if you're a nonprofit and would like to request some cat grass for your sanctuary, please visit petgreens.com.
Arden Moore here with some great news. I have not one, but 2 calendars coming out in 2025. Order yours now. For my feline friends, it is How to Speak Cat. You're going to learn why and how cats purr and how do they really talk using their tails. For my dog folks, we got How to Speak Dog. Why do dogs dig to dig? And what does it mean when they go belly up? And what does it really mean when they're giving you doggy kisses? Answers are here. Get your paws on the calendars today. Go to Amazon.com or click on this QR code. Paws up. I am so honored to have on our show Dr. Michelle Gonzalez. She operates the Rascal Unit in the whole state of Ohio. We've talked a little bit about that. And she's always giving back. And we are diving into the fact that, oh, by the way, she nonchalantly mentioned, I have a degree in veterinary forensics. And she shares some of these stories on her podcast, Animal Welfare Junction. First off, how do people find the Rascal Unit? How do they find you on the podcast?
Yeah, so the Rascal Unit, just rascalunit.com. That's our website. We have a nonprofit called Rascal Charities, which is rascalcharities.org, that helps further subsidize some of the things that we do. And we are on Facebook and we're on Instagram. So those are the ways to find the Rascal Unit. And then the Animal Welfare Junction is available on all podcasts, and we have a YouTube channel as well. So just by searching for the Animal Welfare Junction, and I have a website where it lands, which is forensics.vet, that it's still under construction, but that's a place that people can get information about what we do.
So I will now subscribe to your YouTube, and please, will you subscribe to Arden Moore YouTube? Because this will be on that show. Okay, that's deal. All right, without getting too graphic, forensics. And come on, it's got to give me a case that maybe people might be surprised that you showcased on one of your podcast episodes.
Without getting too crazy. Well, I mean, I have done a couple of cases of animal hoarding.
Okay.
And those are important. One of the latest cases that I did was from Medina County in Ohio, where there was a teenage child living with her mom, and the house was very filthy. It had a problem with dogs and cats, and it's not the number of animals, but the condition in which they live. So this is one of the least number of animals that I have worked with, and nothing had been done for this child for a really long period of time because child services was having a hard time getting in. But it took an animal control officer to learn about the condition of the animals, and she immediately launched an investigation within a short period of time, got a warrant, and was able to get into the house and not only rescue the animals, but also rescue the child. So the child was able to be taken out of there, placed with family members, and then the mom is, I say, being held accountable for it and hopefully getting some help.
Yeah, because hoarding is an illness, right?
Yes, hoarding is a mental health disease. I also have a degree in forensic psychology.
Because I think that we're playing Trivia Pursuit and you're on my team, okay, Dr. G? Holy moly.
Well, and it's like I did the veterinary forensics degree, and it just opens more questions, right? So it's like, why are people doing this? So same thing, it's a Band-Aid. When I'm going to a case and I'm helping with the case, I'm just putting a Band-Aid. What is causing the problem? So that's why I went into that forensic psychology degree, to figure out why are people abusing and neglecting animals? Because hoarders, for instance, it's a mental health disease. So how are we going to help animals? We have to help the person. We may think that the person's a piece of crap, right? Like you're dirt, you're abusing and neglecting these animals, but why? Some people are doing it on purpose, but there are some that are not. And we need to figure out how to help them and prevent it from happening again.
I appreciate that. What about a tricky case, a disease or illness or something in a dog or a cat? that you were able to crack with your forensic and your psychology in forensic medicine?
Okay, so I was called to consult on a case. This is a case where I was not involved in the examination or anything. The dog had passed away already, and I was sent all the information to try to figure out if a person was liable for the death of the puppy. Okay. And this puppy, the owner said, whenever we get a case, we have to listen to the story, what they're saying happened, and then see what the history, what the physical examination, all of that stuff is, and then see if they match. So the person had said that something had fallen in the puppy's head. It was a very young puppy, about 8 to 10 week old Great Dane puppy. So something had fallen in the puppy's head, and then the puppy was sick for about 3 to 4 days. She did not take it to the vet immediately, and then the puppy was doing really poorly. And then it was surrendered to a rescue who ended up taking it to the vet. So when the puppy went to the vet, the veterinarian did a fantastic job at trying to stabilize it and keep up with the changes that were happening, but the puppy was just not responding. And after about, I want to say, a week to 10 days, the puppy had to be euthanized because it was not doing any better. So the question was, as far as, did what she say happen? And with examination, and it's always hindsight is 20/20, right? So the veterinarian that took care of the puppy did a great job as far as meeting all the needs of the puppy, but they didn't have all the information that I have. After doing a ton of research and looking at all the values, the lab work, and everything else, I was able to conclude that yes, the puppy had been hit in the head, like the person said, but what happened was that there was damage to the center in the brain that controls body temperature regulation, food and hunger, and all of those things. Wow. So because all of that was damaged, even though the vet was doing a good job at keeping up, they were fighting a losing battle because it was not going to be able to be dealt with. Wow. So looking back at the initial injury and seeing what other cases like that exist, I was able to determine, had that person taken the puppy to the vet immediately, something may have been able to be done as far as decreasing the inflammation. She tried to vet it at home. She gave it medications that actually made the problem worse. And because of that, the puppy ended up having to be euthanized. So that's probably one of the most challenging cases.
Yeah.
Because
you're a veterinarian, you're a sleuth, and you are full of compassion. Move over, sister. I think NCIS, move over. I think one day you should have your own investigative veterinary forensic show.
I'm living the dream, right? Like people say CSI doesn't really exist because you only have to do one piece of CSI, right? Whether you're a toxicologist or you do this or that or the other. I literally get to do everything from beginning to end. I get to go to the crime scene. I get to help collect evidence. I help with the examination of the animals, and then I can go to court if necessary. So I love what I do.
We're definitely going to have you back on too. Hey, you have some critters at home. So quickly name your cats.
Yeah, I have 2 mutts that are 9 years old, named Taze and Jackie. We're hockey fans. So Jackie because of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Taze because at that time my son loved the hockey player Jonathan Taze. Mm-hmm. And then I have 2 younger ones, 2 one-year-old Maine Coons named Celine and Lucian. And they're named after underworld characters because they look like underworld characters.
I'm glad you said underworld and not underwear. That is awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome. You've been a veterinarian for a while. What's the future hold? Do you think there's going to be more things like Rascal Units popping up across the country?
I would hope so. I help students through a mentorship program because I want veterinary students to see the importance of community service and what we can do by, making care accessible and affordable. They get to see things firsthand. They get to see how thankful the community is, and it makes their work have additional meaning. Yeah. And not that general practice doesn't give meaning, but it's just a completely different experience. So I'm hopeful that some of those students will follow in these footsteps and do things like that, as well as other veterinarians that maybe they've been in general practice for a really long time and they're burned out by it and they want something different. This is something that they can look into.
I like it. How do people get connected to you again? Talk about Rascal Unit and your charity and the sites quickly.
Yes, rascalunit.com and rascalcharities.org for information about the Rascal Unit and services we offer and where we travel to.
All right, I got to ask you, dog, cat, right now. What is something that dogs have taught you to make you a better human? And what is something that cats have taught you to make you a better human?
Dogs, I mean, they're just loyal. And to me, loyalty is super important, right? I will go to bat for my friends and I will defend them to the end as long as they're doing things right. But from cats, just their independence. Just the fact that they can be with you or they can be on their own. It's okay. It's no big deal. My cats love it when I'm home. When I'm not home, they do just fine. So just that being able to be self-sufficient, but be also around other people.
Now, you and I met at the Cat Fancier Association's big expo in Cleveland, and I had my cat, pet safety cat, Casey, the big long orange tabby, and he is a therapy cat. Your impressions of Casey? Casey just said, hi. That's all he said to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice to see cats that are okay in social circumstances, right? Because not every cat likes to be outside.
Yeah.
We always tell people, there are cat owners that think, oh yeah, I'm just going to take my cat outside off leash or whatever. Your indoor cat and your outdoor cat is like a split personality. They're not the same cat. Good. So it's really nice seeing cats that are okay in those conditions. I know that none of my 4 cats would have put up with it.
Well, I have another orange tabby named Rusty, and he's like, hell no, don't take me outside. So yes. Casey is bulletproof, I think. He's never met a stranger or a strange place, and that's unique, I think.
Yeah, it's great because, I mean, not every cat wants to be outside, and we have to be better at reading. Some people say the voiceless. They're not voiceless. We're just not listening. Right?
Very well said.
Thanks so much for making our tails wag by watching this guest interview from Arden Moore's Four-Legged Life.